beautiful morning at the Kansas Speedway. It's time for Busch Bowl qualifying for the NASCAR Busch Series teams and drivers. The Yellow Transportation 300, they'll race later today. 46 drivers for 43 positions for this afternoon's race. You see a lot of wind here. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Pretty day, though, for Busch Bowl qualifying. Mark Green aboard the 70 car. First driver out scheduled to be Curtis Davis. Second driver out, the local hero Clint Boyer from Emporia, Kansas. Glad you're with us here on Speed 4 Busch Bowl qualifying. "46 teams getting ready to qualify here on the mile and a half. Before we cut them loose, let's go down to the garage and Bob Dillner.
And just imagine coming here to a mile-and-a-half track for the very first time at Kansas Speedway and having it your first qualifying attempt. Very good for Brian Clausen yesterday in practice. He was up there on the speed charts, but any butterflies going into this, your first qualifying run on a 1.5-mile track?
Oh yeah, anytime we were really nervous at Richmond. We're a little less nervous now. We got a little bit of experience under our belt now, and we're just real excited. I feel like we had a good car. We worked a lot on qualifying trim there in a happy hour yesterday, and I feel like we made some good changes throughout to make the car better, and hopefully the track cooling down and being fourth out is going to help us, hopefully.
How much have they told you to push it, Brian?
Oh, they, obviously our goal is going to be better, or top 25. We qualified 25th at Richmond, so we obviously our goal every week is to get better. So, we're just hoping to put the Memorex Dodge in the top 20 today and to get a good starting spot and get some experience today in the race.
Brian Clausen, one of those former USAC hotshots coming over to the NASCAR Busch Series. Wendy Venturini?
Bob, I swear we didn't plan this. I really didn't know Bob had Brian Clausen, but I have AJ Allmendinger, so they're getting an extra sponsor plug on this interview. AJ, I know yesterday didn't go so well for you. We're sad that you didn't make the Cup race, but today this gives you a little bit more experience at this speedway at Kansas.
Well, yeah, and that's what it's all about. Obviously, yesterday was a huge disappointment. We never got it exactly right, and we didn't get in. But today's a new day, and we're here doing the Busch race, and obviously the Ganassi guys, the last three races, give me a great car. Memorex has been fantastic, and we're here to have some fun and run up front.
How much is the weather going to factor into today's qualifying or the race with it a little bit cooler temperatures and a slight wind?
Well, the cooler temperatures are going to be great. It's going to give us a lot more grip, but the wind, I don't know. Obviously, it's blowing from turn one right now, so maybe I'll try it flat and we'll see what happens.
All right, good luck to AJ Allmendinger, who, of course, runs full-time for Team Red Bull, and he gets to run some of the races here in the Busch Series for Chip Ganassi Racing.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope you're enjoying your second or third, careful, cup of coffee. Steve Burns, Larry McReynolds, Jeff Hammond. Jeff Hammond's already over the limit. We've cut him off. Now, Jeff, we heard Brian Clausen, the 18-year-old, talking about changing weather conditions. We saw high wind at the top of the broadcast. He says the track's cooling off. They practiced twice yesterday. What does that all mean?
What it all means is, Steve, this racetrack is really giving these guys a fit this time. Goodyear brought a little tire that was maybe a little bit tougher than what it needed to be, and they've been really fighting hooking up the left side tires with the right side tires. And it may sound kind of confusing. You'd think you get the kind of chassis set up to make both sides work, but they've really been fighting with that. Todd Bodine, several other drivers are complaining about that. So they've made wholesale changes, Steve. And with the way the weather is today and anticipating hot track conditions, which were there yesterday, a lot of these guys, when they go out and make this qualifying run, it'll be the first time around the track with these new setups. So it may be surprise, surprise, surprise. The wind is really going to give everybody a fit today because it was dead calm yesterday afternoon. High winds that people talk about, well, the wind don't really make a difference. But you're coming off this corner with a little bit of push. Air gets a hold of it, it'll slam you right up in the wall. So guys have got to be careful during this qualifying session.
And I think what adds to this is a mile-and-a-half racetrack with only 15 degrees of banking, which is not a lot of banking. And you enter the corners here with a Busch car at close to 190 miles an hour. And it's such a fine line of getting a good qualifying run, of underdriving or overdriving a race car. Let's go back to Nextel Cup qualifying yesterday. Probably probably one of the best qualifiers in the history of Nextel Cup and Busch Series, Mark Martin. He overdrove his car just that much, just about hit the wall, and that's what these guys will be challenged with, especially with qualifying with a race setup.
Speaking of challenges, was talking to Randy Pemberton earlier this morning, and he was talking about the Cup garage, but this may apply to the Busch garage as well. Randy said, did you hear any drivers say they were happy down there?
No, not really.
Maybe one or two at most.
The guy that winds up either on the pole or in victory lane later on this afternoon.
Well, we do know Kyle Busch was very fast in Busch Series practice, and first driver getting ready to roll, that's Curtis Davis. It's time for Busch Pole qualifying here at Kansas. And guys, the flags as we got off the elevator here to walk into the booth, it was amazing how hard that wind was blowing, Jeff. You're exactly right about that.
And it was surprising this morning. I was walking through the garage here and I kept thinking, well, it'll die down, because there's not really that many clouds in the sky, so it's pretty much a clear day, and you figured that wouldn't be a problem by the time qualifying came around, but it's still out there. And like I said, a lot of the drivers, when they first take this racetrack, they're going to be hunting and trying to figure out exactly what it's going to do to the race car. And let's point out also, we've got like 19 guys that are like doing the double duty, like A.J. Allmendinger, who ran the Cup car or tried to run the Cup car yesterday. Guys like David Rudiman, for example, they've been on the racetrack this morning, so they have a little bit of an idea of what to expect with the wind, so they can compensate for it. But guys like Curtis Davis, first guy on the racetrack, he's not too sure what the racetrack's all about, much less the wind.
Larry, Jeff brings up an interesting point. This is not a car of tomorrow race for the Cup Series, so do those guys that have just had a Cup practice, do they have a distinct advantage?
Well, I think simply because of what Jeff pointed out. Certainly the cars are very different. Those cars are in race mode. These guys are trying to qualify. But I think the biggest thing is you have a feel for what the racetrack is like today versus like what it was yesterday when these Busch cars had their 2 practice sessions. I think that's the biggest advantage those guys have.
And that's a complaint, quite honestly, that we've heard all year, that those guys get more track time under the same conditions. So nothing new there.
It is what it is, so it's kind of like,
right.
Just deal with it and go on.
Curtis Davis' first lap, a 33.01. Now, I think we will pretty much see all of these guys take 2 laps. Most of them, as I walked through the garage area this morning, they've elected to go with sticker or brand new tires. So sometimes you get a little more grip on lap 2, so I think we'll see about everybody go ahead and get after that for that second lap.
And the other part of that is, Larry, a little bit harder tire, cooler conditions. You got to get some heat in these tires, so they should work a little bit better on that second time around.
He slowed down just a little bit, so Curtis's first lap will be his lap of record at a 33.007.
By the way, Martin Truex Jr. set the track record here back in October of 2005 with a time of 30.178, 178.938 miles per hour. Check in with Bob Dillner.
Heard you guys talking about the weather conditions here at Kansas and specifically the track temperature. Well, just wanted to note to you guys, you're right. This track temperature a lot cooler here today than it was in the final practice yesterday or altogether yesterday. In fact, almost 20 degrees cooler today. Track temp right now, 88 degrees.
20 degrees difference, and that's the problem I think they're going to be running into, Steve, is the fact that, you're anticipating the track heating up for later on this afternoon. So now you've got to compensate with either air pressure, tape, or have the driver himself just say, look, don't drive it in there, overdrive the car, get yourself in trouble, because, you're going to have the grip you need, but this setup is really more for this afternoon.
Well, Larry, let me take that a step further. Let's talk about the race as we watch hometown hero Clint Boyer. I say hometown Emporia, about 100 miles from here. I saw the local forecast last night, and it said temperatures would be about 85 degrees later this afternoon.
I think, honestly, when these guys race, that we're probably going to be more like the conditions they had yesterday in practice. But I think with the track being a little cooler this morning, a little more grip, a little bit more of a challenge, because obviously the speeds are going to be up there, and as we always point out in Busch qualifying, you are qualifying with a race setup. Now, Clint's first lap, a 32.10, that gets back pretty close to what he ran in practice yesterday. He ran a 32.02, and he's going to go ahead and run the second lap. We do need to mention that we had 47 cars here yesterday, but Josh Krug in the 61 car actually had an engine failure. They did not have a backup engine to go to, so today we will actually have 46 cars that go out to qualify, 43 starting spots.
I got a question for Bob Dillner.
Sir.
Did Clint Boyer, being the local guy, did he race on the dirt track near here last night?
He did race over at Lakeside Speedway in a late model for the very first time. He's a former modified champ there, and let me tell you something. He put on a show. He spun all by himself on the back stretch, and they came to the front again, crashed, came to the front again, and crashed finally. And in that second crash, guys, he did jam his wrist a little bit, and it is pretty sore today.
I don't know.
I know what Larry's going to say.
I still question. I know you got to live. I know you got to have fun. You can't put yourself in a bubble. But when I look at everything that's on the line right now, why in the world would you go off and do a dirt track race on a Friday night?
In fact, Tony Stewart pulled out of a dirt race in Knoxville, Iowa.
It's just, you know, I guess I can kind of see doing a Busch race because I think there's definitely information about the racetrack, about the tires that can be learned. But how in the world is running a dirt track on a Friday night going to benefit you and trying to help you win a Nextel Cup championship? If I was an owner, I'd have a big problem with it. No, I wouldn't have a big problem with it. It wouldn't happen.
Wouldn't be an issue.
Exactly.
You going to let him run a Busch? Why wouldn't you not let him do something else that helps clear his head?
Oh, controversial Jeff Hammond.
I'm just saying, you know, I'm looking at trying to, this game is as much mental as it is anything. And when you start getting the driver's opportunity to relax or do something he feels like he wants to do, you got to be careful there also. Because if it's good enough for him to, if he's good enough to go out, just like Todd Bodine, if he was running both series today and he was in the middle of the chase, if he's good enough to go out and run a Busch car, he can run the same risk of getting hurt here as he can right over at this dirt track.
Yeah, Kevin Harvick actually raced over there last night as well. Now, Todd, pretty much one and done. Decent lap for him, though, 32.04.
Race car driver Kenny Wallace was there, too, at the dirt track.
Clearing his head.
Clearing his head. Clint Boyer, the fastest of 3 drivers to qualify. That's Brian Clausen in the number 41 car. He'll be followed by Casey Mears, Denny Hamlin, and Mark Green in the 70.
One thing I do need to clear up that I mentioned a while ago, we actually, with the 61 car withdrawing, we actually now only have 45 cars here. So 2 cars will not make this show.
Wendy Venturini.
Clint Boyer has just climbed out of his car, the fastest of the 3 cars that have gone out there so far. Clint, how did you feel about that lap?
It's just too loose, but, you know, it has been. And you got to be loose here to be fast here on the end of the day. But, you know, just got to hold on to it. It'll be, I'd say if it'll hold up in the top 15, we'll be all right.
All right, tell us about this dirt racing you did last night. How's your wrist feeling? Bob said you might have jammed it.
Yeah, I did. You know, it's just got into somebody. You know, that happens. It happened out here, but it was all fun. It was a good night. We were fast, and anytime you come back home, you want to be fast. But had a lot of fun, and just wasn't our night.
Thanks, Clint. And, of course, as you guys said, sometimes it's just about keeping the drivers relaxed during this chase. Bob?
Well, you know, Wendy, J.J. Yaley was out of the seat of the Busch Series car here last week at Dover because of a pinched nerve in his back. So, J.J., everybody wants to know, how's that back feeling? You're back in the seat here.
Yeah, my back's a lot better now. I'm still only probably 80-85%. It feels fine when I'm in the car. Just doing jumping jacks and some things I probably shouldn't be doing are a little bit tough. So we're going to see if we can get the Miccosukee Game Resort car up front. I hated not being in the car last week, and I told him Friday I felt good enough, but obviously Sterling was doing a good job. So we'll go out there, see if we can qualify good. We changed everything on the car. Hopefully we went the right direction.
And J.J. Yaley doing triple duty here today, guys. Actually, this weekend, Cup Series, Busch Series, and also the USAC cars here at Kansas.
Tell you what, Brian Clausen may be a rookie, but I think a veteran crew chief kicked in here on this qualifying lap. Pretty good first lap for Brian, 32.12. Veteran Busch Series crew chief Brad Parrott on top of the truck. I think he knew probably he was not going to run faster, so he pretty much told him, you know what, that's a good lap. Let's let it lie right there.
24 car being driven by Casey Mears. He finished 8th here, his best finish in 3 starts back in 2004. Nice statistic for Casey Mears. 16 Busch Series starts in 2007, 13 top 10 finishes.
Yeah, they kind of got off, we talked about this before, got off to a slow start, but at the same time, once they got on track, they've been really consistent all year long. Car wiggles just a little bit getting down into that turn.
We've seen a lot of wiggling here this weekend.
And you're going to see a lot more for the day's qualifying sessions all said and done.
What you're going to see here is probably about a 31, I was going to say 31.60, 31.59. he pretty much beats Clint Boyer by about 0.4 of a second on that first lap. Solid lap.
Beats his practice lap from yesterday by almost 0.6 of a second. So pretty good pickup right there. And Larry, looks to me like he's not done yet.
He's going to go ahead and get a little more here, it looks like. I'm not sure he'll be able to pick up from that first lap. That's right at 171 miles per hour average around this mile-and-a-half racetrack for Casey. Second lap, 31.82, so he slows down quite a bit, but that's a great first lap for Casey Mears.
Casey finished second in the Cup race here a year ago.
With engine not running, I think.
I think a fair general statement is that Casey is good on the mile-and-a-half tracks, and he has been from day one. Think back to Atlanta, won the Coca-Cola 600 on a mile-and-a-half, just suits his style.
Well, he won the Busch race last year at Chicagoland Speedway, so yeah, definitely this type of racetrack I think he likes.
I think the faster racetracks overall, think about what he did at Daytona, when he's raced at Talladega. I think that's what this guy here, he just likes going fast. There's another guy who likes going fast no matter where he goes, Denny Hamlin. A little bit different look at that 20 car this week. Got Slim Jims on the hood and got some popcorn on the quarter panel. So see what he can do for this Joe Gibbs number 20.
You know, Denny's running a limited schedule. He actually this year he has 17 starts, 3 wins, 13 top 10s. And you look at his record here recently, 4 consecutive top 10 finishes, and he's finished no worse than 7th in 7 of his last 8 Busch starts.
Watch the tracker, Steve.
Yep, he's dead on it.
Looks like he might be in the 40s, possibly high 30s, 31.47.
Good enough for the pole position. We'll go to Bob Dillner.
Kevin Harvick could be good enough for the pole position here today in his own 77 car, but last night he was good enough to wheel a modified at Lakeside. You look like you were having a blast.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun. I got to drive Clint's Jack Daniels car there, so it was an experience, and I think we finished 9th in the feature, so that was pretty cool. But I had a great time. They had a great crowd, and just went out there to have some fun. So hopefully our Dollar General Chevrolet, it's going to be a handful here. You got to run them so loose and race trim, and we're just hoping to make a lap here.
How about Kevin Harvick with a top 10 run last night in a modified on the dirt?
He doesn't really have a whole lot of dirt experience.
Forming a test team, remember?
Getting ready for next year's the Dream at Eldora.
Denny Hamlin, the fastest of 6 drivers to qualify. Of course, he won last weekend's race in the Busch Series at Dover, Delaware.
Denny was fastest on his first lap, pretty much like Casey Mears, slowed down about 0.3 on lap 2.
Denny has 5 career Busch Series wins and one earlier this season at Darlington and Michigan. 12th in the chase for the Nextel Cup points is Denny Hamlin, 158 points.
Just want to add one thing. I went through the garage area this morning, talked to a couple of guys on that 11 car. They said, Hammond, don't count us out yet. We got a long ways to go. So that group over there, they're getting ready to dig their heels in a little bit harder so we can battle our way back up in that chase points.
Mark Green has 3 NASCAR Busch Series starts here at the mile-and-a-half Kansas Speedway. Best finish of 9th back in 2001.
And Mark in yesterday's practice was 36th quickest in this 70 car. First lap, 32.47. While Mark makes his second qualifying run, a couple of well wishes. Dennis Dillard, who actually drives the pace car for the Busch Series, Dennis will not be here this weekend. His daughter is back home fighting a very serious illness, and so Dennis elected to stay home with her. Also, Ricky Gant, one of the Busch Series NASCAR official, just had some surgery. Here he's recovering well. Ricky, we wish you well. Hope you're watching the broadcast this morning. Get back to the track soon.
Thanks, Larry. After Mark Green, we'll see Stephen Wallace, J.J. Yaley, Casey Kane, and Scott Wimmer. Denny Hamlin, the fastest of 7 drivers here on the Kansas Speedway. We'll be back with more Busch Series qualifying from Kansas here on Speed. Stephen Wallace has 2 NASCAR Busch Series poles in this 2007 season. They came at Bristol and Nashville. Best finish, 12th at Nashville. We'll watch Stephen and listen to Wendy Venturini.
Well, Denny Hamlin just having a few moments with Dave Rogers and the crew, talking about how loose his race car was. It seems like everybody's out there. Oh, you're real tight. You were tight. I was trying to listen in there, see you guys as I was talking. So your car is real tight compared to everybody else that's been real loose.
Yeah, we did a lot of things air pressure wise that thank goodness we can take out, because I was screaming loose in our qualifying run yesterday. And so, but I tell you, we're going to have a very strong car today in the race. I feel like 17 is going to be good, but I think the 5 will probably definitely beat us, and a few other cars. But for the most part, I mean, he gave me what I asked for, and that was to make it tight.
Is the goatee for the chase for some good luck?
I got to change something, for sure.
All right, thanks to Denny Hamlin, who put on a pretty good lap, 31.479, guys.
Wendy Stephen Wallace, 6th fastest overall. He ran a 32.46 on his first lap.
Yeah, I was watching, especially on his exit of turn 4. He was way up the racetrack, especially on that second lap, and you can see he slowed down almost 2/10.
Let's go back to Bob Dillner.
Down here on pit road as cars are going out to qualify, and Tony Stewart having a good time down here with Kevin Harvick's Busch Series car. Tony, you just soaked my cameraman. What happened?
I needed a bath. So
how's this car going to be here today?
Probably going to be loose. Everybody's pretty free to qualify, but the wind's making it kind of tricky too. So we'll probably be a little bit free to qualify and be right back where we need to be for the race.
How much can you feel the wind out there, and where can you feel it?
You can feel it. I mean, you got one of the best camera guys in the business here. He gets a shot of these flags here, and they're standing out. I mean, they're not limp today, and it's pretty early in the morning for 10 o'clock or 10:30 in the morning, and for the wind to be blowing this strong already. I mean, it's gonna be a windy day all day around.
And I got to thank Tony Stewart, because our cameraman Dave Stolen, at least he's clean. He's not smelly anymore.
We didn't get the chance to finish, because once he gets his bath, then we got to get him some new Old Spice deodorant, and then he'll be dialed in for the rest of the day.
How savvy is Tony Stewart?
He's become a little marketing machine.
He is. That was brilliant. Qualifying effort for J.J. Yaley.
Well, let's watch
Saturday. Bath.
Saturday night,
Yeah.
Saturday. I can take a bath on Saturday.
Let's see.
There's Tony.
Oh. Didn't even get the camera lens wet. Good job, Dave Stolen.
Getting ready to say that right there is a professional. He saw it coming.
That's right. He saw it coming. He's a veteran.
JJ's first lap, 32.41, puts him 6th quickest in his James Finch car.
Now, that's slower than what he practiced at in that final practice yesterday, Larry. I wonder if he's having the same experience that a lot of these guys are running into so far. So loose, he just can't drive it.
Tell you what, one of the first cars, though, that's picked up on lap 2, he picked up about a 10th to a 32.32.
J.J. Yaley has 2 Busch Series starts here at Kansas with a best finish of 6th. Up next, we see Casey Kane in the 9 car. He'll be followed by Scott Wimmer, Jason Keller, and A.J. Allmendinger. Keller making a milestone start here this weekend. We'll talk about that in just a moment as we watch Casey Kane get around this 1.5 miles. He won this event in 2005 from a 4th starting position.
And I'll go out on a limb right now after watching him practice yesterday. I believe this is going to be one of the cars you got to beat today, because it looked like his car was able to work at the bottom as well as around the top right there. So, you've got that kind of balance working for you early on. He should be much a factor, I think, later on this afternoon.
And I tell you what, watch the tracker out here. He's normally a factor in qualifying. He has 5 career NASCAR Busch Series starts here. He's qualified in the top 10 4 times. Was pretty good down to the middle of turn 1 and 2, but looks like he struggled just a little bit on the exit of turn 2.
And Larry, to take your point a step further about his qualifying efforts, he started on the outside of row 1 twice.
So he's always pretty solid qualifying. I don't know if this is going to get him to row 1 here. Right now, his first lap will be 3rd quickest at a 31.64 for this 9 car. Last time Casey was in the 9 car, he actually went to victory lane at Bristol a few weeks ago.
Denny Hamlin's pole speed or time is a 31.47. That comes out to 171.543 miles per hour. And, that's a lot of speed at a racetrack where it's only 15 degrees of banking.
It's not a lot of banking at all. Not at all.
Steve, can you say, do you believe? Do you trust me?
Be hard to holler off down in there. We'll come back and catch up on Scott Wimmer's qualifying lap when we return to the Kansas Speedway here on Speed. No one covers NASCAR like NASCAR on Speed. Friday, tune in all weekend long as we deliver live coverage from the Talladega Superspeedway. Get all the on and off track action with NASCAR on Speed beginning Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern, live and only on Speed. Why, Jeff?
It's huge.
Thank you. Good timing, good preparation.
Tell you what, though, Talladega, restrictor plate, and oh, by the way, the car tomorrow, a lot of unknowns as we head there next weekend. A lot of unknowns. Scott Wimmer in the 21 car, Richard Childress Racing, first lap 32.09. That puts Scott sixth quickest right now. And I know maybe we've got a few fans that are just starting to follow the Busch Series, and they hear all these drivers say, you know, I know I'm going to be loose. You know, I know I'm going to be good for the race, and it may be puzzling. Well, why don't they tighten the car up? Well, remember, Busch Series races are all under the impound procedure. You pretty much, all you can adjust after qualifying is tape on the nose, air pressure, a little bit of wedge, a little bit of track bar. You can't change springs, you can't change shocks. So these guys know for this 200-lap race later on this afternoon, the car is going to be very tight. The front end's going to want to shove, so you have to be free to qualify to be good for the race.
Larry Scott Wimmer picks up just a bit. He's fifth fastest on his second lap. Denny Hamlin's still the man to beat. Let's go to Bob.
All right, guys, in the garage area, the word on the street is that this guy may be the guy to beat here today. Stephen Light, the winner at Kentucky, and a lot of people say, hey, this car looks even better than your Kentucky car.
I'll tell you what, these guys done a great job. The City Financial team's worked hard this weekend. This car was awesome in practice. We didn't hardly change a thing. As a matter of fact, a couple of adjustments we did make in practice were the same ones we made in Kentucky in practice. So I feel good with the car. We ran, you know, top of the racetrack, bottom of the racetrack. Car felt good everywhere. And I'm really looking forward to qualifying. I really want to see what this thing's got. I lifted quite a bit in my qualifying lap in practice, and don't know why I did. The car was so good. So we're going to hold it wide open to see what it does.
And guys, this is what I like. You're talking about Scott Wimmer in the Busch Series. Well, this team doing the right thing with Stephen Light, the former ASA Challenge Series champion, getting his roots here in the Busch Series before moving to Cup.
Thank you, Bob. And as my hero at MRN, Barney Hall, would say, tip of the hat to Jason Keller, because he's making a milestone start here this afternoon. 4:17. He ties Tommy Houston for the most career starts in the NASCAR Busch Series.
And you know what's good, though, right now? Jason driving this 11 car, he's competitive right now. He's not just here making starts. He finished 8th last week at Dover. Now, his first lap, Jeff, will be 8th quickest at a 32.31.
Now, you're right about that, guys. I mean, it's just great to see him be able to kind of like battle his way back into the Busch Series, be able to tie another great legend, and Tommy Houston. And it looks like, you know, here this year he will definitely break that record and set a new one for his own self. So, I mean, it's great to see him back in the 11 car again. We talked about it yesterday. A number that was synonymous with another hero as far as the Busch Series is concerned, Iron Man Jack Ingram. So, congratulations, Jason, for achieving a huge milestone as far as his career is concerned. And the other thing, I want to go back to what Stephen Light was telling Bob. As a crew chief, Stephen, I'm glad the car is good, but I'm not really happy about the idea you think about running this thing wide open. We've got a race here in a little bit. We got a pretty good race car.
Yes,
I mean, sitting on the pole would be wonderful, but let's don't go hang this thing in the fence.
Oh, wait a minute. Hammond's telling him to be careful, but he wants him to go run the dirt track race.
Hey, I'm thinking about today, right now, in the next 3 hours, what we got to do. There's probably 12 guys down there that are sitting there thinking about racing, not getting a backup car off the truck.
I have figured out how I want my driver to relax and air his brain out. Go to the motor coach, lay in the recliner, and watch Speed Channel. You'll be just fine.
Now, see those guys right there. They're sitting there anxiously waiting and watching these guys qualify. And like I say, in the back of their mind saying, I hope that they don't do something that'll get me in trouble.
Tell you what, that's a happy group right now. A.J. Allmendinger just keeps getting better and better, second quickest in this 42 car. And I think his confidence just keeps getting better and better and better. He did miss the Nextel Cup show yesterday, but since he's been driving this Busch car, that's the first Cup show that he's missed. In fact, both the Red Bull cars, Vickers and Allmendinger, missed the show.
Well, I admire his courage. He came over from open wheel racing in the kart series. He's failed to qualify for 16 Cup races, but I tell you what, every week, A.J. Allmendinger takes it like a man. He says, I'm just going to dig as deep as I can go after it.
And I think Brian Patty, the crew chief there, is the perfect crew chief to put with him. Veteran crew chief, rookie driver.
I was sitting there thinking exactly the same thing. Let's don't discount the team he's got under him right now. Ganassi Racing being led by the veteran Brian Patty, who's worked with some rookies in his past. I mean, guys like David Rudin, when he first made his transition from basically dirt modifieds and short tracks up in the Nextel Cup ranks as far as Busch Series. So great crew chief combination and definitely paying off dividends right now, because that's a big pickup. That was almost 0.8 of a second pickup for A.J. Allmendinger.
Kevin Harvick, 5 wins in this season. Daytona, Loudon, Chicago, Montreal, Watkins Glen.
Hey, did I tell you that Happy Harvick has now joined the fraternity of the outdoorsmen? He went elk hunting the other week.
I have heard that.
And he did quite well. He got him a really nice big bull, so he's quite happy about that.
Is a bull an elk or is a bull a bull?
A bull elk. Thank you. So you understand.
See, I'm not an outdoorsman.
I'm not either. I'm an outdoorsman, but my thing about outdoors is under a palm tree in a lounge chair. That's the way I want to spend my time outdoors.
With a glass of Merlot and a cigar, so you clear your head.
Not in a tree with a gun.
And he eats orange slices, too.
Yeah.
Kevin Harvick, 5th quickest in the 77 car at a 31.82, the defending champion of this race.
If you watch him, Larry, he's tippy-toeing around this racetrack. He's one of those drivers right now who realizes, I could try to set this thing on a pole, but I may be carrying me out here not careful. So very, very good lap right there for Kevin Harvick.
Larry mentioned that he's the defending champion of this race. He finished 4th in 2005 and 2nd in 2003. Coming up, we'll see Eric McClure, Mike Bliss, Richard Johns, Brian Vickers, and Tony Stewart. Back at the Kansas Speedway, Busch Series qualifying continues with Eric McClure on the racetrack. Let's go back to Wendy.
Jason Keller just pulled into the garage area. Listening to you on the scanner, you felt like your car just didn't have enough grip. Is it going to be okay in race conditions?
Everything yesterday indicated that we were going to be okay. I don't know, when you don't, it's kind of the same characteristics we had at Chicago when we tried to qualify. But, it's nice to be in the race. That was our first goal, but we want to, the competitor in you comes out, and you want to run good. And we felt like we were pretty decent yesterday. We weren't quite as good when we taped up, so hopefully we'll just do the quiet thing like I always do and drive to the front.
All right, thanks, Jason. Let's head over to Bob Dillner.
Well, the Roush Fenway teammates of Greg Biffle and Carl Edwards chatting with each other here. Let's see if we can get a word. Carl Edwards, Stephen Light said he might be able to run this track during qualifying wide open. How about you?
Good luck, Stephen. We'll see you in the hospital. You might be able to. If he can do it, man, he's the man. I'll tell you what, he's right in front of my Scott's Fusion, so I'll watch. I'll see how that goes. But biggest thing is we just need to get a safe lap in. I'm not going to try anything. We're trying to fight that 29 car for the points, and this Scott's Fusion needs to just be in the show without being torn up.
How about the need for, we always talk about the phrase need for speed, but I heard you got the need for Steve. What's that about?
It's a commercial. It's about seeding your lawn this winter. And they say if you put this winter guard on in the fall, in the springtime, your lawn will be perfect. So right now I do have the need for speed, though. We need to get this thing on the pole.
But I heard you got the need for Steve, too, your Chase is On cohort.
The need for Steve. That's pretty fun. Yeah, he's actually, it's just a little thing I like to do for my friends. I mean, I let him co-host the show with me, I figure it's good for his career and everything, and maybe he can learn something. We do have a good time with that thing.
All right, Carl Edwards, Steve, and how about it? Who else has the need for Steve?
No, nobody does. He doesn't have a need for Steve. He's completely taken over the show.
Now, wait a minute. I can't believe you say that. We have a need for Steve.
No.
Yes, we do.
He's our quarterback. He's our leader.
This ship would sail without him.
Exactly. You got to call the plays there.
Well, I appreciate that. Mike Bliss, 6th fastest overall in his qualifying effort. Now, I was making fun of Carl. There's a radio commercial out. He says, I'm Carl Edwards. I have the need for seed. So just, I thought it was
funny. But Carl Edwards can do that because he's young, good-looking, big, Hollywood smile type deal. He can get by with that stuff.
That's exactly right.
Tell you what, this 22 car, they have the need for a win, but they keep knocking on the door. They finished 4th at Dover last week. That's actually Mike Bliss and his 22 team's 2nd consecutive top 5 finish.
as we watch Richard Johnson, the 25. Larry, I want to get back to the 22 because you have mentioned that in the recent weeks since Armando Fitz has gone to a one-car team, they have really focused their efforts, and you can see their performance pick up.
I just feel like, and I know Jeff feels the same way, they were just spreading themselves too thin trying to do 2, sometimes 3 race cars. It's like once they focused on one, it has made a difference.
Yeah, it definitely has, and it's good to see that, and it's good to see this young man right here getting an opportunity to drive his 25 car for Renzi Motorsports. Everybody's really high on him down in the garage here. It says he's got a good head on his shoulders, he has good feedback, and it feel like with enough seat time, he's really going to blossom into somebody to watch.
You know, I had a chance to sit down and talk with him yesterday. He's actually from Lawrenceville, Georgia, and he raced late models. And he wanted to get into NASCAR. So what he did, he's 26 years old. He went to the University of North Carolina in Charlotte and got his engineering degree. He did internships during his engineering education at the Petty's, at Hendricks. He even did an internship at Renzi Motorsports. When he graduated, he took the engineering job there on the 35 car. And now he's driving the 25 car. He'll actually be in this car the rest of the season.
Hammond has an engineering degree from the University of Rhonda at Ingle Hollow.
That's correct.
Otherwise known as Junior Johnson and Associates.
He said it's trained by the best of the best, Professor Junior Johnson.
Right. Yeah, Richard right now kind of struggling, though. 17th quickest of the 17 cars and actually slowed down about 3.5 tenths on lap 2. But I did talk to him yesterday. Really, really neat guy.
But what I like about what he just did, Larry, the car, again, it looked real dicey, like it's up on top of the racetrack. With the wind blowing, he's locked in the race. Why go out there and run a good day? I mean, the thing is, he needs seat time. So starting the back of the pack, well, there's worse things in this world, like unloading a backup car. We keep harping on that, and there's a reason for that. You don't have a lot of time to prepare the car. It really stresses these teams out to the max. So you really want to see him be smart. And I think it was a good call him just to make a nice, smooth lap right there when the car definitely was loose.
Want to mention, too, Jason Keller referenced the fact that he was locked into the field. Top 30 in owner points in this division have a guaranteed starting spot. And as Larry Mack said, there are 45 entries for 43 positions. So Keller is, in fact, locked in.
Try to watch this guy here, too. He just might pull a rabbit out of his hat and have an opportunity to sit on the pole here.
He was 6th in happy hour practice yesterday.
And I believe he's on the same mission as his Nextel Cup teammate, A.J. Allmendinger. You know, both of them missed the Nextel Cup show yesterday, and both of them were awfully good in Busch Series practice right now. A.J. Driving for Ganassi with Sabatas is second quickest, and you look at our tracker right now, this old Toyota is working on a front row start as well.
Got just a little bit loose right there on that exit.
He's going to be right there about what Allmendinger ran, it looks like. He's 4th quickest at a 31.60. So right now, second is a 31.58, third is a 31.59, and Brian Vickers is 4th at a 31.60.
Vickers, a former Busch Series champion.
Come on, crew chief, tell me something.
Looking at the tracker, I'm just not sure he's going to be able to better that 31.60 that he ran on lap 1. You can see the car just starts to lose grip and almost ran out of racetrack.
Flirting with that outside wall, I can tell you that.
That was a good first lap for Brian. 31.60, runs 31.90 on lap 2.
Slows down by about 3 tenths on that lap.
This ride right here, they keep somewhat going back and forth. They're running the full schedule between Dave Blaney, who actually ran Dover last week, and Brian Vickers, who's run several races for him as well.
They're both great drivers, but why would they kind of alternate drivers? Just to kind of get some different input, or
well,
what's the thinking?
I know why Dave came out of the car for a few weeks. The 22 car is right there on the brink of trying to get into the top 35 in owner points in Nextel Cup, the 22 car for Bill Davis Racing. And, of course, as we know, it's a bit more of a challenge. We run the car tomorrow like we did last week at Dover in Nextel Cup. So I think he decided to put more focus on his Nextel Cup effort and stay away from the Busch car for a few weeks.
Tony Stewart had quite a weekend here a year ago. He finished 4th in the Busch Series race and then coasted across the start-finish line on fumes to win the Cup race.
I listened to the radio the other day, and one of the local DJs was talking about how Tony Stewart came to Kansas City last year and stole one from the competition. Guess what?
The record book
said he won the race.
That's right.
Not how you did it, but he got it done. And Greg Zipadelli and his whole team did a great job right there making that call. And I don't think Tony's going to be overly happy with that qualifying effort right there. But, again, a lot like Kevin Harvick. He's 12th quickest right now on his first lap. I think, Larry, he's trying to find his way around here. He kind of tippy-toeing, get back up there on that the tractor.
But I go back to his interview a while ago that he had pretty much with Bob down on pit road. He said he did not expect to have a great run because he knew the car was going to be very loose, but felt like it was going to be good in race trim when they pulled the tape off the nose. But I believe this is going to be a little better. 32.13, he bumps it up a 10th, which puts it up to 9th quickest. And, you know, guys, this has been a very unpredictable racetrack. We've been coming here for 6 years. You look at the Busch Series. We've had 6 different winners, 5 different pole sitters. Just look at the Nextel Cup. 6 races, 5 different race winners in that. Very unpredictable racetrack.
Coming up in Busch Series qualifying, you'll see Jennifer Jo Cobb, Stephen Light, Carl Edwards, Kevin Conway making his last start for Joe Gibbs Racing. Jennifer Jo Cobb trying to become the first woman to race in the NASCAR Busch Series in the 2007 season. She's from Kansas City, Kansas, but slowest of the 20 drivers who have qualified here today. Bob?
Greg Biffle has a reputation of putting his foot to the floor, so how does wide open sound for qualifying here?
That sounds good, but I don't know if anybody's going to do it here today. Maybe across 1 and 2 here you might come half throttle with the wind blowing at the corner, but definitely going down the backstretch with this kind of wind, you're going to get a lot of mile an hour. And you're going to have to come off the gas and probably use a little bit of brake getting in down there. But we'll see what we can do with the 3 Infusion car. It was pretty good in mock qualifying yesterday. We ended up 4th, so we'll see what we can do.
And guys, the wind is really picking up now, and it's blowing down the backstretch, so they'll have the tailwind, and the track temp, guys, is up about 4 degrees to 91 degrees.
And I think one of the secrets, and Jeff and I talk a lot about this at the mile-and-a-half racetrack, especially when it looks like it has the characteristics of lap 1's going to be the money lap of Stephen Light, first lap 32.04, 11th quickest, is roll out of the throttle early, getting into turn 3, coming to take the green, pick that throttle up, and build that head of steam to carry that top-end speed down this front straightaway. Because if you don't get through 3 and 4 good coming to take the green, it's going to kill the front straightaway on your initial lap.
Stephen Light, 11th overall of 21 drivers who have taken time here. By the way, Mark Green is locked into the field now in the 70 car after Jennifer Cobb's run.
And let's go back to Bob and what Bob says. We watch Carl Edwards, your co-host, getting ready to come out on the racetrack.
He's the host now. He's taking over.
Okay, all right, he's taking over. But the key thing is track temperature going up, wind going up. So that means it's going to get hotter and slicker as far as racetrack temperature is concerned, still with the wind factor, and most of these cars are loose to begin with.
I definitely think an early draw was going to be the definite advantage here, that's for sure, which is not great news for people like Jeff Burton, Paul Menard, Kyle Busch, who will go a little bit later on in the session.
That's a loose race car.
Jeff, you know, you were talking yesterday about Carl's ability to clinch this 2007 Busch Series championship. If he averages a 31-place finish over the next 6 races, he clinches. So that's all he's got to do with that 754-point lead.
Yeah, I think over these last 5 or 6 races, the championship battle that we're going to be watching is Carl Edwards is going to end up 2nd quickest at a 31.55, is that ownership championship battle. Because even though Carl has a 754-point driver's point lead over David Rudiman, they only have a 39-point lead over the 29 car that's shared between Jeff Burton and Scott Wimmer for Richard Childress Racing.
And don't worry, I also forget the fact that we talked about Joe Gibbs and that 20 team. They're back there only 123 points behind these 2 guys. So if they get up there battling too much and forget about them, they could also sneak back to the Owners' Championship. And it's a big deal.
Hey, he picked up over 10th. Wow. He goes to the top of the charts in front of Denny Hamlin. 31.43, 171.5 miles an hour. Top of the board right now.
Get you some of that.
And we talked about it yesterday. I know Denny Hamlin's happy with his car. Casey Kane runs good here. Kevin Harvick, Tony Stewart. But I think if you win the race today, you're going to have to beat a Roush Fenway car. In particular, Carl Edwards, Matt Kenseth, or possibly Greg Biffle that we talked to a while ago.
You know, I mentioned this being home track for Clint Boyer. He's only 104 miles from here in Emporia, Kansas. Well, Carl is just 140 miles from here in Columbia, Missouri. So this part of the country is important to him as well.
And Jamie McMurray pointed out to us yesterday, this is somewhat his home racetrack as well. Joplin, Missouri, not that far away.
Well, let's hold the phone here for just a second, guys. Remember yesterday we followed this 00 of David Rudiman during practice. The plight of trying to get this car hooked up. Talked to Jerry Baxter this morning, and he says right now he doesn't know where the race car is at all.
Hermie drew us that high-tech map.
I'm
Remember
telling
that?
you,
On a napkin.
where you had to drive it around this racetrack. You'd like to arc it off there. You see he gets down in the corner, back end still sliding around. He's really got his hands full.
And that just killed
the speed.
Killed it. He was actually in pretty good shape to that wiggle as he turned down in the middle of turn 3 and 4. Not the lap this 99 group was going to be looking for. 32-14. 15th right now.
And I guarantee you right now, I'd like to have a heart monitor on David Rudiman. I guarantee you it went out the roof all of a sudden when that thing jumped sideways like it did. But these guys are battling not only for that second position as far as the drivers are concerned, but Jerry also said, hey, we want to be in that top 5 in the owner's points, but more importantly, we want to build a winner race.
And, of course, this is a car from Michael Waltrip Racing, and for the second week in a row, as Barney Hall would say, tip of the hat to Michael Waltrip Racing. All 3 of his Nextel Cup cars, Michael, DJ, and David Rudiman, actually solidly in the show. Good runs for all 3 of them yesterday. David slows down just a little bit, so he'll have a little work to do. The man that comes in here second in the Busch Series points.
It's called survival. He wants to survive today.
Next Saturday, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series takes on the mother of all racetracks, the Talladega Superspeedway. And only NASCAR on Speed delivers live exclusive coverage of all the fender-to-fender action. Catch the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series next Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, only on Speed. Why, Jeff Hammond?
Because it's huge.
Carl Edwards with a huge qualifying run, talking to Pierre Cattell. Back at the Kansas Speedway, Carl Edwards is the man on the provisional pole. And Wendy, it's hard to believe, but Carl hasn't taken a pole position in 2007.
Yeah, a little bit surprising. He came over the radio and said, has anybody gone faster on that second lap? PK said very few. Well, Carl Edwards managed to do it. Looked pretty exciting of a lap for you out there.
Yeah, I don't know what it looked like from the outside for sure, but from the inside, that was pretty exciting. I didn't want to have to run a second lap, but I wanted him to tell me no, shut it down, but I thought, well, try another lap. I'm just proud of my guys. That's fun. You know, hopefully it holds up. I don't know if it will. The clouds are coming in. There's a lot of fast cars, but to be on the pole here at Kansas with this Scott's Fusion would be great.
You talked about Stephen Light. If he could hold it wide open, man, it wouldn't be a good thing. So what's the status? Were you wide open?
Yep, wide open. Everybody that's watching that hasn't gone, you should just hold her down. Don't worry about it. It'll be great.
All right, Carl Edwards, always great to talk with. And we were checking out the clouds have rolled in here in over the Speedway, guys.
And, Wendy, I know we got a little ways to go, but hard to believe here with the point lead he has, 4 wins, 14 top 5s, not 19 top 10s, no poles in 2007 yet.
He's on the friends and family plan here as well, just like Clint Boyer. Said he's got a lot of cousins that he's never met before that want tickets.
You mean Cousin Carl's got cousins?
He does.
Now, he's always excited to watch. And again, he can thank that crew all he wants to, but more I was standing up here, he did a whale of a job hanging on to a pretty loose race car.
I think he'll have speed on inside that transporter, see if his pole position hangs on.
You go there and watch speed, see what we talk about.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's what we were talking about a while ago. There you see the driver standing, 754-point lead with about 6 races to go over David Rudiman, but that's the owner standings, and I like the owner standings. Jeff, I know you do, because you know what? Carl Edwards mentioned the team. It's about the race team. The guys here at the racetrack, the guys that build the engines, the guys at the shop that never even see the racetrack.
And I think it bodes so much because Richard Childress has had two different drivers making that 29 car as far as an owner points concerned. Again, we talked about Joe Gibbs. He has had 4 different drivers in that 20 car. Jack Roush doing it all with Carl Edwards this year. And, I mean, they really, I think, put it to the max right there because you think, again, Larry, about how many different places they had to fly to, back and forth, midnight flights, you know, from a long distance away. So, you know, big strain right there on all these drivers and his teams, you know, trying to get back and forth between 2 different racetracks. And Bob said the wind was picking up. Could you get over that right there, Larry? I mean, it is gusty.
It's definitely, it not only has the flag standing out, but the poles were bending as well. But just to make note, that would not be the first time that this has happened in the Busch Series. Just a few years ago, it happened where we had one driver that won the Drivers' Championship, and ironically, Richard Childress Racing, the 21 car, Kevin Harvick and Johnny Sauter, actually won the Owners' Championship back in 2003.
Greg Biffle has 5 top 5 finishes here at the Kansas Speedway.
Larry, good job. You didn't have to look it up. Slob did.
I've got papers everywhere, though.
I'm telling you, got
the papers were flying.
Thought we had the Florida New York Stock Exchange stuff flying all over the place.
Greg's led a total of 156 laps here at the Kansas Speedway, including 136 back in 2005 when he finished second.
You better watch this guy right here, because I think the gauntlet was kind of like thrown down whenever his teammate Carl Edwards sat on the pole. Look at the tracker, Larry.
Look how it grew down the back straightaway. Not because he had more straightaway speed or more horsepower. He got off turn 2 better than Carl Edwards did. If he can get off turn 4, maybe it's going to be close. I mean, real close.
Oh, right there at the end.
Yes,
got it.
31.48. I mean, just barely nipped Carl Edwards, but it was very close coming off turn 4, getting back to the flag.
And if it had been another 100 foot down to that start-finish line, it probably would have been the other way around.
Greg has 2 previous poles this year, coming at Michigan and Dover a week ago.
Cousin Carl will still have 0.
That's right. But he's got a 754-point lead. Matt Kenseth on the racetrack, his teammate Greg Biffle on the pole position. A couple of updates for you. DJ Kennington, Chris Horn, Eric McClure, Curtis Davis, all locked into the field. Bobby Hamilton Jr. also in the top 10 with a good qualifying effort.
Now, guys, right there at 17 car, he looked really good. Right down there, arcing it off into the middle of that turn. Looked like he kept it right down on that bottom of that white line, Larry. So it'll be interesting to see what this lap's going to look like, because the car really looks like it's stuck to the racetrack.
Wiggled just a little bit there. He was second quickest in both practice sessions. His 2 Roush Fenway teammates up there first and second right now, Biffle and Edwards. Hey, how about 31.39? He beats Greg Biffle by 2/100ths of a second. Hey, Roush Fenway 1, 2, 3 right now.
And what have you been saying, buddy, all day long? If you're going to win this Busch race, it's probably got to beat one of these Roush cars. And right now, they got the deck stacked in their favor.
And that deck's stacking higher and higher.
It is.
Great lap.
So Matt Kenseth on the verge of his 14th career pole. Got one earlier this season at Lowe's Motor Speedway. 47 car driven by a former 2-time Wisconsin State wrestling champion.
Wrestling?
Kelly Byers.
Tell you what, that was a pretty good lap. He's 12th quickest right now at a 31.94, and he actually ran the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race here a few weeks ago. So a little bit of track time already here at Kansas in 2007.
Those cheeseheads are tough.
Seem to be.
I'm telling you, tough.
Seem to be.
Those cheeseheads got to go to Minnesota this week, though.
That's right.
See what happens then.
Don't worry about it. That Raging Cajun's going to take care of it.
I'm with you.
Number 4.
How's the Redskins deal working out for you?
Don't depress me. They almost beat the Giants.
Hey, wait a minute.
Down on the goal line.
Did you say Redskins or Deadskins?
Oh, there you go.
Almost. I love that word. It's the biggest word besides
okay, here's the truth. They blew a big lead.
Okay.
So it's kind of like our Carolina Panthers. They almost lost to the Atlanta Falcons, but they didn't.
But they did. Lauren Wallace's cousin.
Twice removed. 100 miles back and
ready to strike.
There he is.
Mike was actually pretty quick in final practice yesterday. He was 9th quickest. Now Mike comes in here 10th in the Busch Series points, but still looking for his first top 10 finish of 2007.
Mike also has 4 cup starts here at Kansas Speedway.
He goes to 12th quickest.
12th quickest right there.
Another 31.90, 31.93. We now have 14 cars that run in the 31 second bracket. Speculation that Mike and possibly the Geico sponsorship may be on the move headed to 2008.
You have people?
Again. Yeah, it appears that possibly James Phoenix, owner of Phoenix Racing, maybe will go to one Busch Series car next year and maybe run a few more Cup races than he's been running here in 2007.
Gotcha. Let's go down to Wendy.
A little friendly wager between Matt Kenseth and Greg Biffle. I heard you get on the radio with Greg after he ran his lap. He didn't want to tell you the time, but he said Go ahead, go out and beat that if you can, and you did.
Yeah, we weren't really having a wager. I was just on his radio giving him a hard time. There he is right there. But I actually listened to him get through 1 and 2, and that helped me a lot. And I knew I had a big headwind down there, so I don't think anybody will go through 1 and 2 faster. But I totally scrapped turn 3, so I would be surprised really if we didn't get beat. It's clouding up here a little bit, and I totally missed turn 3. I got so loose, but that was a great lap, and give us a decent place to start at least.
All right, thanks, Matt. Using his teammate as his advantage for his qualifying run.
Wendy, he's starting to sound like Mark Martin. I screwed up this, I screwed up that, but I'm on the pole.
Well, but what he was talking about, though, Steve, is true. Turn 1 and 2 was almost picture perfect, but Larry pointed it out. You know, a little bit of bobble down there in 3 and 4, and he lost some valuable time down through there. So that's what the difference is going to be. And it may be because of the wind blowing across that turn 3, but it also could be because of the fact, you know, again, the tires gave up that little bit on that final corner.
And remember last year he was on the pole here. Led 145 of 200 laps, but ended up finishing second to Kevin Harvick.
I thought that was kind of an odd stat. The driver who's led the most laps here at Kansas has never won.
What I say about this place, unpredictable. Very unpredictable.
Jason Leffler's first lap, good enough for 11th. He's 4th in the NASCAR Busch Series point standings. 2 poles in 2007, the second Daytona race, and the second Bristol race.
Jason was way up the racetrack right there in the middle of 3 and 4. See, it really hurt his time coming back to the start-finish line.
Let's see, the Busch Series, they're off next week, but Jason Leffler will not be off, will he?
Oh, no. He's going to get to jump back in the Craftsman Truck Series and drive for Red Horse Racing here in the upcoming races. Pretty excited about that, having him behind the wheel down at Talladega. Look for great things, him driving that #1 truck for us.
He'll stand on it.
He will definitely stand on it.
Coming up, Brad Keselowski, Johnny Sauter, he's getting married, you know, Casey Atwood, Kyle Busch, and Paul Menard. Wednesday, tune in for the high-revving, tire-shredding, wheel-standing, two-wheeled excitement. It's twice the thrills on half the tread. Watch Superbikes Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific, only on Speed. Speaking of speed, Matt Kenseth has laid down the speediest lap in Busch pole qualifying. Yes, sir.
Nothing. I was just listening to your terminology and watching Brad Keselowski finish his second lap. Picks up a little bit, moves up to 15th quickest.
I think he'll be fairly happy with that because I talked to Brad and also talked to Tony Uri Sr. this morning, and they were kind of scratching their head. They said, you know, Larry, our car is so good on long runs, but no matter where we go at the 1.5-mile, 2-mile tracks, we can't run that fast lap that we need to run for qualifying.
Mr. Dillner.
Well, Mr. Burns, everything worked out well for Mr. Ambrose last week at Dover. We told you his wife was pregnant, ready to be given birth, and they had a baby girl on Sunday. And the big question amongst the guys in the booth, Marcos, is have you changed any diapers, and if so, how many?
Well, I've changed a few. We've got a 2-year-old, so, you know, it's a team effort these days. I try and shun away from those dirty ones, but sometimes it's unavoidable.
How about qualifying here? How about a nice gift for the wife with a pole here? Can it be done?
Well, last week at Dover I crashed in qualifying, so the first goal is just to make a lap at least. But we're confident that we've got a pretty good package. I just want to do a smart job out there and qualify somewhere in the top 15 if we can.
Hey, Hammond, I think Marcos Ambrose has actually still changed more diapers than you have in your life, right?
Yep. Yeah, anybody would right about this time here. But Bob, right now, listen to that 28 car Johnny Sauter on the racetrack. Car does not sound like it's up to full speed, like almost I got a plug wire.
Yeah, it does not sound good at all. He's going to end up 28th quickest. I know we had Johnny on trackside, and he was actually pretty happy. This is a brand new race car that was built by his boys at Haas CNC. This is a Dale Earnhardt Incorporated engine, but definitely I won't say he was on 7 cylinders, but something was not right about that car, and he's going to shut it down. And remember, this is an impound procedure. They'll have to get approval from NASCAR to raise the hood and look at what possibly might be going on there.
Well, he's already going to be just about at the back of the pack there. Excuse me, Steve. But
no, that's
so
right.
he's got to do some work on that thing because it does not sound right.
I was just going to follow up on what Larry said about Johnny Sauter. Yellow Transportation is based here near the Kansas Speedway.
And they're sponsoring the Busch race
today. That's right,
today.
the Yellow Transportation 300. Casey Atwood. Love to see him make a comeback here in the NASCAR Busch Series. A guy who's won races, did so at an early age, driving for Bruco again. Pink scheme honoring breast cancer awareness and research.
And they're trying to tie some things together the latter part of this season with Casey. I know he's going to race for this team at Lowe's in a couple of weeks. He made his first start of the season at Dover last week. But remember, Greg Biffle drove this car some of those where they were at one racetrack with the Busch Series, one with the Cup Series. Casey was actually the guy that was practicing and qualifying the car for Greg, so he has a little seat time this year.
13th for Casey Atwood. Good lap on his first lap. And Larry, as you mentioned last week, that Bruco team has been bought by Gary Baker, a Nashville businessman, and sounds like they're going to move their operations from Kentucky to Nashville, Tennessee.
A lot of things kind of happening good for that team, but you go back to the color of the car right now. Paint getting close to the wall right there is Casey Atwood. But guys, did you hear about the young man? It was Hunter Stewart, 7-year-old that started doing some local short track racing or local racing around his area and put the ribbon on his car in honor of his mother. He wound up on the Ellen DeGeneres show the other day talking about that. So, you know, it's great to see not only the 2017, but there's a lot of people around the country right now that are really trying to raise the awareness of breast cancer as far as that goes.
And a lot of NASCAR sponsors and teams who are getting involved as well.
Steve, we know your mom has been fighting about with it. Elliot, Hermie Sadler, their moms been fighting, so certainly it's great to see that we're trying to raise the awareness of the things that's going on with breast cancer.
And I'm not so sure how this is going to go over in Talladega, but we're going to wear pink Crocs next week, pink shoes to join the fray.
I think as long as my people understand, we may have to work at that part, making them understand why we're wearing them.
You sure they're going to let us, or actually stay in Alabama?
Just walked in there with them and didn't explain it. I'm not sure.
Hey,
all right.
I did get an email this morning from someone who lives in Alabama.
Yes.
The guys are welcome to Alabama, but to tell Larry McReynolds to leave that dead rat he had on his head at home.
You mean Davy Crockett?
Yeah.
I was trying to ask the man a serious question.
Oh.
But you couldn't hold a straight face either.
It was tough.
But you were asking a very serious question with that dead animal on your head.
Yes, I was.
Well, guys,
it's a
right
serious
now,
show at times.
It is.
Get seriously back to here because Kyle Busch, who was the fastest in practice yesterday, completed his first lap, and he's only 9th quickest. The car did not look like it was down in the racetrack. But, guys, let's take a look at what Larry had on his head.
That's
well, y'all make fun of my hair or my lack of. It's like, okay, make fun of this then.
Well, it was easy. If it makes you feel any better, it was easy.
See, I'm getting serious right now.
I actually like that better than the kangaroo that Marcus Ambrose gave you.
I couldn't even ask the question with the kangaroo. Kyle Busch, though he picks it up on lap 2, 5th quickest to a 31.49.
I love the miracle of videotape.
I don't. It hurts me nonstop.
Jeff Burton in the 29, getting ready to qualify. Busch Pole qualifying continues here at the 1.5-mile Kansas Speedway. That's Paul Menard in the 15, and he's gunning for Matt Kenseth. Kenseth with a pole time of 31.39, 172.007 miles per hour.
He was actually pretty quick in final practice last night, 4th quickest. Now, this team, they fielded the car last week at Dover for Martin Truex Jr. finished 2nd. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. will drive for this team at Lowe's in a couple of weeks. It'll actually have the 8 number.
See the bobble right there coming off of turn 4. That did not help him as far as this lap here is concerned. You see the tracker drop way down, even though his first lap was good enough for 11th. Lost a lot of speed coming from turn 4 back to the start-finish line.
Menard
used a lot of racetrack right there.
Yes, he did. Jeff, I was about to say he actually got his first career Busch Series pole here back in 2004. But not today.
No, I don't think it's going to happen today. It'd be pretty much a miracle to be able to pick up the speed necessary to get back up there to challenge for the pole. But right now, he's got to be feeling pretty good. He got back to the garage area with a complete race car. He had a couple of close calls.
Slows down about a 10th to a 31.86.
So after Menard, we expect Brent Sherman, Kyle Krisiloff, Marcus Ambrose, Jeff Burton, David Reagan, Bobby East, and Jamie McMurray.
I wonder if Jamie Mack can join the rest of the Roush brigade up there in the top 3.
Looking pretty sporty, Jeff. 1, 2, 3, Kenseth, Biffle, and Edwards.
Cat in the hat. He's pretty happy if he could get his 4th car up there. Start on 1, 2, 3, and 4 here at Kansas here this afternoon.
Brent Sherman in the 36 car, the Big Lot Chevrolet.
Got told today this is going to be Brent Sherman's last ride here with this 36 car. Starting, I believe it's going to be next week at Talladega. I understand that Jeremy Clements will be in this, from Spartanburg, will be in this number 36 car.
Matt Kenseth, 31:39 is the time to beat.
And we do know with about 5 or 6 cars left to qualify that Jennifer Jo Cobb, the 44 car, she will not make the show. She will be going home, so she will not get to make her first start here in 2007. Brent's first lap, 27th quickest at a 32:23.
Yeah, and he's already shut it down.
Speaking of Roush Fenway, did we overlook David Reagan?
Very much so.
He's
coming up.
Quite the little qualifier, too. Got the pole at Texas back in the spring, another 1.5 mile racetrack.
Handful of drivers left. They're all shooting for Matt Kenseth here at the Kansas Speedway. We'll be back to see if anybody can take that pole position away from Matt Kenseth. 9 drivers have qualified here at the Kansas Speedway. Matt Kenseth is the fastest. Let's go to Bob.
Well, guys, as you noted, the Roush Fenway group very strong here during NASCAR Busch Series qualifying. Jamie McMurray's car being pushed up the grid. He will be the final car to take time here. Jamie, the Roush Fenway boys look pretty good. 1, 2, 3 on the charts. Can you beat a 39?
Well, the Dish Network car didn't unload as good as we needed, and it's just going to be really loose. I'm hoping that Chad has tightened it up enough in order to make our car good in race trim. When we put it over to qualifying trim, it just had to be really free. So we made some adjustments, and it's certainly encouraging to see all of your teammates give you a good number to shoot for.
And, of course, when Jamie McMurray talks about Chad Norris, the crew chief here, hoping maybe tighten it up just a tick, but loses fast on the edge of out of control, guys, right?
There is definitely a fine line there.
There's that razor blade you like to talk about, Larry, as we watch Kyle Krisiloff. He finished his first lap. He is 32nd quickest in his brand new number 14 car.
He has an ARCA start here. He finished 2nd, and then back in last year he ran a truck race here, finished 17th. So a little bit of seat time here at Kansas, and he's going to slow down a little bit on lap 2. So right now Kyle will be 32nd quickest in the 14 car.
Krisiloff 18th in NASCAR Busch Series points. His best finish 5th at Talladega back in May.
Since you mentioned Talladega, I want to go back and make sure I correct something. The Busch Series are not going to be at Talladega next week. Next time we see them, it will be at Lowe's Motor Speedway, and that's when we'll see Jeremy Clements in number 36 car. I said Talladega inadvertently. So used to having these guys with us in companion races, just like we do in the spring when we had the Busch Series there. This time the next NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series will be in Talladega instead of the Busch guys.
And you'll see the, excuse me, Larry, 1 second, you'll see ARCA from Talladega on speed, as well as the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, because it's huge. Yeah, thank you very much.
But that's what's interesting about the Busch Series schedule. It's loaded pretty heavy in the beginning, and especially with all the different racetracks from, Las Vegas, Fontana, Mexico City. Then they get a little bit of a break, and then they had 16 to 17 races in a row, and actually in their last 6 or 7 races, they get a couple of off weekends, so kind of a much lighter schedule in the end for them.
Yeah, this is the 30th of 35 races this afternoon.
Just how many weekends are you going to take off, Larry?
I don't know that I've had one.
I didn't think you had, but just checking.
His next weekend off, he'll be eating turkey.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I'm sure I'll go somewhere and do something that weekend more than likely. Probably. Just can't get enough.
Marcus Ambrose, he just got through putting down a really smooth lap right there, 14th quickest at a 31.84 in that 59 car. And it looks like he's going to try to rally back and pick it up just a little bit on his second lap.
I believe he will, Jeff. Yes, sir. Picks up almost 2 tenths, 31.67, puts him up there in the top 10 at 10th.
So a new baby daughter, Adelaide, at home, and Marcus Ambrose qualifies in the top 10. We'll see if anybody can knock Matt Kenseth off the pole after this. Jeff Burton, the number 29 car for Richard Childress Racing. He won here in 2002. A year ago, he started second but lost an engine and finished 40th.
Tell you what, he may not be running all the races, but he runs them. He's effective. 15 starts in 2007, 10 top 10 starts, 3 wins, 10 top 5s, 13 top 10s, and he's led a total of over 430 laps this year in the 15 races he's run.
Would you consider that having a great performance and being very competitive?
It's one of the reasons this 29 car is in the Owners' Points Championship battle, for sure. Great lap, fourth quickest, and he shut it down the minute he crossed the finish line, 31:46. So he becomes the fastest of the Chevrolet brigade.
One and done for Jeff Burton, and as we've said, it's 3 Roush Fenway Fords atop qualifying charts here. Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle, and Carl Edwards. Matt Kenseth, the only driver over 172 miles an hour. His time, 31:39. Yet, let's not overlook David Reagan, another Roush Fenway Ford. We heard from Jamie McMurray. He's scheduled to go out last in another Roush Fenway Ford.
Checking some things and found out that earlier this week, coming into Kansas City, David went over to watch the Kansas City Wizards play the LA Galaxy in the soccer game over at Arrowhead Stadium. Signed some autographs and did a few things over there. So getting a chance to kind of like be diverse when it comes to other sports.
That's the way a driver needs to relax. Not out running a dirt race on Thursday or Friday night, for Pete's sake.
Larry Mack, get a life.
By the way, just to add to the intrigue, David Reagan has a pole this year, and it came at
Texas.
Mile and a half.
That's it. And, you know, we had Marcus Ambrose qualify just a couple of cars ago. Now, David leads Marcus Ambrose by 24 points in the Rebestos Rookie of the Year points battle. One thing we need to point out, a lot like in Nextel Cup, the Busch Series Rebestos Rookie of the Year battle is based on your 16 best finishes. So, in other words, there's a week where maybe both guys have bad runs. The points won't change because it doesn't become one of their best 16 finishes of the year.
13th is what David Reagan puts on the board, and he's one and done as well.
Kind of breaks that string as far as the Roush stranglehold in the top 3.
Take a break and come back and see the final qualifiers here at the mile and a half Kansas Speedway. Look at those Roush Fenway Fords, 1, 2, 3. Jamie McMurray, the last driver to qualify here in Busch Pole qualifying. And while we were away, Bobby East qualified the number 37 car in the 28th position.
And not only is McMurray one of the Roush Fenway Fords right now, they are 1, 2, 3, and then David Reagan's in 13th. Jamie's actually a go-or-go-homer, and we anticipate he will lay down a good enough lap to get in this show. We know Jennifer Jo Cobb, Josh Krug, who actually withdrew. Right now, I think Morgan Shepherd is on the bubble as far as watching this run here as to whether he'll race today or not. Looks like McMurray not only is going to be in the race, but he's flirting with a top 10 start here.
Loses just a little bit right through the center, 3 and 4, trying to gain it back to the start-finish line. Don't think it's going to be up there in the top 3, but it will be good enough for 7th there. So Roush should be very happy right now that he's got 4 cars in the top 10.
We've got 3 Fords, 3 Chevrolets, then the Ford of McMurray, then the Dodge of Allmendinger, the Chevrolet of Casey Mears, and then the Toyota of Brian Vickers rounding out the top 10. What I like about this qualifying session, 46 cars here. The fastest 43 cars, Wendy, make the show.
So that bumps Morgan Shepherd out of the field. Let's go to Wendy.
Congratulations again to Matt Kenseth earning another career pole in the NASCAR Busch Series. You got to feel good about getting a pole and having a great position to start this race today.
Yeah, I feel good about our RB's Ford Fusion's been pretty fast since we got here. Drew and these guys have done a great job on the car all year, so it's cool to have all 3 Roush cars up front. It's cool sharing the front row with Greg, so you know, that's exciting. And our car was pretty good in race trim, so I'm looking forward to the race.
How do you think the race conditions are going to change a little bit? It looks like clouds had come in this afternoon, but the sun's still out. We're undecided if rain's on the way. What do you think how the racetrack is going to change?
Well, I mean, you know, generally when the clouds come in and cools off, you just get more grip, and maybe the track will be a little tighter. So we did most of our practice, you know, kind of in the sunny conditions. So hopefully it'll stay, you know, at least mostly sunny for us. I think that'll help. But there's a big wind out there today too, and you kind of got to deal with that.
All right, thanks, Matt. Good luck in the race. And he's one step closer to free curly fries for all those race fans if he wins the race today.
She said free curly fries.
That's what the back of his car says.
Exactly right.
Wow.
Win on Saturday, free curly fries on Sunday.
How about that? So Matt Kenseth picks up his 2nd straight Kansas Busch pole, 14th pole of his Busch Series career. Let's take a look, guys, at the starting grid for this afternoon's Yellow Transportation 300.
See, Denny Hamlin, of course, one of the cars that went out early in the qualifying session, said he was really happy with his race car, and he's starting there in the 5th position alongside Kyle Busch. Great run for A.J. Allmendinger. Missed the Cup show, qualifies in the top 10 here today for the Busch race.
Along with his teammate Brian Vickers there. But, again, I like Casey Kane today. I think he's going to be a guy you got to figure in before it's all said and done. Back on row 8, Kevin Harvick in his own car this year. Won this race a year ago, so be interested whether they can pull it out one more time.
And Mike Bliss will be going for his 3rd consecutive top 5 finish here later on this afternoon.
Kelly Byers and Brad Keselowski, 2 young drivers in row 11. How about row 12? A couple of stars there.
Local guy right there, Clint Boyer, just down the road here. Starting back there alongside Tony Stewart.
A couple of dirt racers they are.
Dirt racers.
Exactly
right.
right.
To clear their minds.
Jason Keller, big milestone.
417. That's how many career starts he has in the NASCAR Busch Series. Ties him for all-time with Tommy Houston.
Saw Johnny Sauter there. We pretty much know they're going to have to look at that race car because when he qualified, definitely sounded like the engine was not up to full potential.
Congratulations to Chris Horn, Richard Johns getting into the race today.
So I guess the question, 6 Kansas Busch races, 6 different winners. Will there be 7 or will we get a repeat?
Could be. Also want to mention the drivers failing to qualify: Morgan Shepherd, Jennifer Cobb, and Josh Krug. For Larry McReynolds, Jeff Hammond, Wendy Venturini, and Bob Dillner, I'm Steve Burns. Thanks for being with us. Matt Kent's at the top of the leaderboard. John Roberts next with NASCAR Live.